This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live Refreshing Technology is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. We all know that you get free shipping on millions of products with Amazon Prime, but you get a whole lot more. Like free music with Amazon Prime Music, free TV, movies, and documentaries with Amazon Prime Video, free games, and a free Twitch subscription to support the content creator of your choice with Amazon Prime Gaming, plus a whole lot more. We've got links to all of these features and some of our favorites, plus a 30-day free trial, all by going to f5live.tv/prime. So this is an important topic and one that's a little different than what we usually talk about in the DRM Not Included segment, because we don't often get into weird legal things here. We usually leave that for News from the Tubes, where we talk about copyright trolls. But this particular one is a serious one that seems that the serious nature of it seems to be being ignored right now because of some fanboying. So, if you have not heard, everybody has severed ties with Justin Roiland, one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty, one of the co-creators of Solar Opposites, and one of the co-founders of Squanch Games that just last month released High on Life. He's also the voice actor for Rick and Morty, for the main character in High on Life, one of the main characters on Solar Opposites, and except for Morty, all of them sound like Rick. Everybody has severed ties because a couple of years ago, he was charged with domestic abuse and, not kidnapping, but what's the other one? False imprisonment by menace, violence, fraud, and or deceit. The accusation and the charges were filed by an anonymous Jane Doe. We don't know who it is, for good reason. Famous person, you know, lots of sway. Makes sense. The incident happened in January of 2020. The charges were filed in, I think, May of 2020. But things are just coming to a head now, which, first of all, I find both fascinating and worrisome. Because there have been pretrial hearings and things previously. It's not like the case is just now getting started. People are just finding out about it. He's been in court. The information's been available. But Adult Swim announced on, I think, Tuesday night, that they were severing ties. Almost immediately after Squanch Games announced that he had resigned from the studio that he co-created the week before. And then Hulu said that they were severing ties. Adult Swim said that Rick and Morty will go on, that the voice actor will be replaced, probably with two different ones. Squanch Games basically said, so long, good riddance. And Hulu has not said exactly what's going to happen with Solar Opposites going forward. So far, most of the attention seems to be paid to what the future of Rick and Morty is going to be. And is the show over? Can it go on without him? Yes. And who cares? That's not the important part of what's happening here. The fact that these charges were filed a while ago, the case is coming up into trial several months from now, and all of this seems to stem from the fact that he resigned from Squanch, and then ties were severed by the other guys. It leaves questions, and the internet has some possible answers. Those answers aren't great because there are other accusations out there pending, including that he was communicating inappropriately with underage girls via Twitter. Normally, I ignore this stuff because it's rumor, right? But these women have receipts, which makes it a little more believable. They've got Twitter chat histories and things like that. The girl who was underage at the time, he mentioned that she was inevitably going to be a cam girl when she turned 18. He called her some names, which on a family-friendly show I will not say. And what was he? Oh, he referred to her as jailbait, suggesting that he absolutely knew that she was underage. Not great. He also communicated with a young woman, adult at the time, but young, a musician on YouTube who had done a concept album about Rick and Morty. And she was so disgusted with what happened that she stopped watching the show that she did an album about because she couldn't listen to his voice anymore. I feel like maybe everybody's trying to get ahead of this.
I mean, yeah, I don't know what they're trying to get ahead of, but I think the criminal charges are probably bad enough.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but does there have to be another shoe to drop?
But if the criminal charges are enough, why didn't it happen in May of 2020?
Because I guess they weren't, or people didn't know about them.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. Maybe it's because the trial's coming up and there's been more attention paid to what happened publicly, and so maybe they're just trying to get ahead of that. And maybe these are shoes that they don't know about or weren't expecting.
I think the real issue that we're getting at with this is the difficulty for brands to decide when to cut ties with someone who is accused of something, right? Like, what's the point? Because, there's a lot, right? So, like, if someone's accused of something, you want to be fair in terms of innocent until proven guilty. You also probably are thinking, like, the brands are probably thinking, like, this person's valuable. Like, we don't want to cut ties if we don't have to cut ties.
And when do they go from being a commodity to a liability?
Right. So, I mean, like, if you're whoever this, whatever companies, they're probably sitting there like, well, we don't know yet. Right. Sports teams are in the same.
Maybe they were waiting for the pre-trial stuff where maybe he was going to be exonerated, or the charges could have been dropped, or something like that in some sort of a pre-trial process. Maybe they were waiting for that to happen or not before making a decision.
Right. Because, there are people who have been accused of stuff and then it just kind of goes away. And like, we don't know whether Rob Lowe, well, what's her name? Who was just recently sued, Tiffany Haddish. So, did you see that whole thing where Tiffany Haddish was sued by somebody for, there was a child sex abuse suit against her in September, but then
I think I did see that.
They just like, whoever it was, the person suing her said, oh, this is just a misunderstanding, and they withdrew their suit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember this. But you're right. It kind of went away. I had forgotten about it.
So it kind of went away. So I think that she's like okay to do whatever, right? because someone was suing her and never got to trial. We don't, we don't know if there was any real merit to any of this, but over now, so you just don't know. On the other hand,
Yeah.
you have a situation like, I don't know if you follow baseball much, but the Los Angeles Dodgers had a pitcher named Trevor Bauer who was accused of sexual assault, but not charged. He was not arrested or charged, but they did. Um, but nevertheless, Major League Baseball suspended him for like a year, and then the Dodgers cut ties with him. So the question was, there is one where there was some embarrassing evidence that he did this or whatever, but
Right.
he was not charged. But I guess it didn't rise to the level of that he could be charged with a crime, but he was dismissed, right? Suspended and dismissed.
Yeah.
So I think these, there's a lot of different things going on here. So then Tiffany Haddish is sued for something, but the person dropped the lawsuit, so now it's over. I guess Michael Douglas was, I think, during Me Too stuff, the height of Me Too, was accused of some things, but it doesn't seem to have had a real negative effect on his career. He's still in Ant-Man, right?
Right.
So I guess it's hard to say,
Kevin Spacey.
what gets. Well, he's really done, right? He
even though he won the court case.
Yeah, but he did so much other stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. He was done, but right,
he was hanging on by a thread, and Anthony Rapp cut that thread.
I mean, but the point is, right? So brands have to. I don't envy any of these brands' their decision,
because
right?
It's treacherous water to tread.
It's a difficult thing, because we as a society believe in innocent until proven guilty, but at the same time, and some of these things aren't even really crime, or some of these things are civil suit, not crime,
right?
not being convicted.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have the case of was it the Cleveland Browns, who had that quarterback who was settled 26 sexual harassment lawsuits or something.
Woof.
And and they signed him to a new deal. He got a small, and these were supposed to be he kind of was accused of kind of assaulting some massage people or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And Cleveland, and he got a suspension. But the football team was like, "That's okay. We'll live with the suspension. We're sliding him to a new contract because we think he can win football games." So,
in fairness, the NFL's pretty notorious for that.
Yeah, the NFL has a really bad record in terms of, but it seems to depend on how well you can win football games, because
true,
they've had others where I forget the name of the guy who was caught on video. Hitting his girlfriend in an elevator a few years ago, and he was gone forever, right?
Okay.
But others who are like Ben Roethlisberger, or others who've done been found to have done all kind of stuff, or accused of doing all kinds of stuff, still get to play. So
because it's that commodity versus liability line, I guess.
So. It's I don't know. Maybe the bar is lower. The bar for behavior is lower in sports, maybe than it is in entertainment. But maybe they. I mean, here's another one we could talk about, as Ezra Miller.
Yeah.
Right. They have been arrested for many crimes.
Yeah.
And
Some
the
of them,
Flash is
weird.
and the Flash is still coming out.
Yep.
The Flash is still coming out. DC invested a lot of money in that, so they made Ezra go. They made Miller go to a bunch of I don't know, some kind of rehab or something to, I guess, maybe try and improve their image. Like, look, they have a problem. They're trying to get better, but that's a classic. Someone has a problem. It's done something bad, then they're going to go to some kind of rehab.
Luxury resort stay, and you come back and go, I'm better. False.
Right, but I mean, like, I've seen people go to rehab. Like, wasn't there someone on Grey's Anatomy who went to rehab for saying homophobic slurs? Like, you don't go to rehab for that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So it just, these brands are in a difficult position.
Yeah.
I do feel some sympathy for their position, because they have to balance, like, being kind of fair and not terminating someone without due process, with, like, just trying to maintain a good public image, with having someone who's valuable.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I think they have to be seen as parting ways with him.
Yeah.
And
doing so publicly.
And doing so publicly. Which is
why when Adult Swim made the announcement, Squanch came out shortly after and said, "Oh, he resigned from us last week."
Yeah, right. So I would not be. I mean, I'm sorry to say that if he is found, is exonerated or just found not guilty, or the charges are dropped, and some of these other shoes that are dropping don't turn out to be very serious, or he apologizes, or he goes to rehab or something, he might be invited back, but right now they have to make a point of separating from him. Now, every time I hear about a story like this, I think about, like, what if you are a company that is signing up for someone's, I don't know, brand or personality, are they going to have to start doing more research into the private lives of people they associate with, so that they don't embarrass the brand? Like, think about just the amount of times there's been somebody that you like, oh man, this person was really essential to this, I don't know, to this brand, to this product, to whatever, and then it turns out that they've been a sleazebag all along, right?
Yeah. Because not everybody can pull a house of cards.
Right. Yeah, I mean, but
that was an impressive pivot, to be perfectly honest. They did a good job with that one, but not everything can pull that off. And so the question that's been raised is, can Rick and Morty do it? Right? He's executive producer. I think he ran the writer's room, and was the voice of Rick and Morty. And yes, of course it can go on, because I think Dan Harmon has been the one who's actually been controlling the thing, and I've got friends that can do those voices as good as as Roiland can. So I think these properties can go on without him. They're animated, which makes it easier, right?
Yes.
Because there's no face to have to replace. You don't have the aunt on Fresh Prince who people just everybody hated, and they just replaced her, right? It's more like Meg on Family Guy, where everybody hated her, and they just replaced her and kept moving. Everything's been fine ever since.
Yeah. I think that property will be fine. Whatever. Yeah. But there are other circumstances where it does make the situation difficult when you.
Yeah.
You know, it like a lot of people really liked Joss Whedon, and after all the details that came out about him, it's kind of poison.
Mm-hmm. Kind of taints everything he's touched.
It taints all the things that he touched, right? So,
which is a lot,
which is a lot. So, probably I know there have been people who really liked Buffy, and they're like, I don't know, maybe I've been a fool. Maybe I've been fooled this whole time. So, yeah, it's tough.
There's a conversation that comes up in music and seems to be ignored in all other media forms, and the topic is, separating the artist from the art, and your attachment to things before you knew and after you knew, right?
Yep.
And whether or not, or if the thing happened later, right? This seems like all of this stuff happened 2020 and beyond. There don't appear to be any accusations before that. So does that taint the stuff before that too? Right? There's all this weirdness around, artist versus art. Can you listen to Chris Brown's music? Can you listen to R. Kelly? Right? There's all these, and with music, people tend to go back to those artists, even after. So, it's an interesting topic. The whole thing is fascinating. I think all three organizations, well, both organizations, Hulu and Adult Swim, responded correctly. Obviously, Squanch was on the receiving end of that one, which is a little different. But I think they made the right move, right? I think he's about to be a huge liability. There was no way that this story was going to stay as quiet as it's been all this time. It was gonna hit hard, and they needed to force push, right? Get away before everything went totally sideways on them. So, and I think knowing that the organizations and the production companies, right, made the right decision when they knew what was happening, when the time was right, they backed away. I think that probably protects the IP, at least. I mean, we'll see, but I think that probably protects the IP in my book.
His NFTs are probably worth less.
Sure. Anything that has his name on it specifically is probably worth less. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out, and how season 7 of Rick and Morty goes. Honestly, it's Adult Swim. I hope they don't just hire Tracy Morgan the way they did with the Squidbillies, because that was weird. But hopefully they will hire sound-alikes like we're hoping that Fox will do for Bob's Burgers with Jimmy Pesto, since he's been fired. Hopefully we'll have a sound-alike there. Hopefully we'll have sound-alike here. There'll be a continuity, and everything will be fine. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology. If you did, please subscribe to the channel down below, and of course hit the notification bell, because we know that subscriptions don't mean much on YouTube anymore. If you've got topics that you'd like us to talk about in the future, please comment them down below. And if you'd like to not follow us on YouTube, there's lots of ways that you can follow along with our content by going to plughitslive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and all of the ways that you can watch, listen, and follow along.